Hey guys, I've got a new video for you. It's a process video showing me painting Supergirl and Procreate, and I talk about perfectionism and how it is affecting me and how it might be affecting other artists. I hope you find it encouraging, and I hope you enjoy watching the painting. Alright, I'll check with you later. Okay. Hey gang, I've got this portrait to show you guys today. I created it in Procreate, and while it's playing, I thought I would just do a little bit of a talk, actually a reading of something I've written on my blog, and it's regarding perfectionism. I felt it was kind of appropriate given this perfect sort of face and sort of porcelain skin that the actress who plays Supergirl has in this photo, and just the nature of a superhero like Supergirl or Superman. They have this sort of essence of perfectionism about them. However, anyways, I wanted to talk a little bit about perfectionism in regards to my journey as a creative. Specifically, this morning I'm thinking about perfectionism during a recent conversation I had with my wife, my very talented wife, about skill level and talent and completing projects. She made a comment to me that made me think about this topic, and I wanted to find an appropriate place to share it, and I think this works. Um, so, one thing I think you need to know about my wife is that she's a person who consistently completes things. She says she's going to do something, and she just does it. From the outside looking in, it appears that she just wills things into completion with very little effort. What she said to me during our conversation is that she tends to only try to start projects that she knows she can finish. That kind of struck me. She basically sets goals for herself that she knows she can achieve, and in doing so, she sets herself up for success. In my creative life, I've noticed that I tend to take on things that are well outside of my level of capacity. I tend to challenge myself beyond my own means. And what this means is that I often end up unsatisfied, or I end up leaving projects incomplete. And I've come a long way in this regard. There was a time in my life where I used to basically avoid starting projects because I felt that I wouldn't be able to complete them to the extent that I saw in my head. The image that I saw in my head, I wouldn't be able to portray on paper the way I wanted it to be portrayed. Um, my wife experiences challenges during each one of her illustrations. There are moments when she brings her pieces to me and she asks me to look at it, and then she tells me that she thinks it's terrible and it's not worth finishing, and she wrestles through that. And this happens on almost every project that she works on. She does this. However, instead of scrapping the piece and starting something new, she presses on until she's finished. She's a completionist at heart, and it's probably a good thing that she's not a gamer. If she was, she'd be stuck in Hyrule forever. All you Zelda fans know what I'm talking about. Anybody who's played Breath of the Wild can relate. Anyways, the way that she approaches her work, it reminds me of many teachings I guess I've heard on the idea of finishing stuff. The person I'm thinking of in particular today is Jake Parker, who said that it's better for something to be finished than perfect. And I would agree with this statement. As a creative, I think it's important to finish a project. Everything you work on, whether it's a sketch or a finished bigger painting, is a building block toward the next project, the next completion of a project. If you go through your creative journey and you only half finish things, you'll never really understand how to finish stuff better or how to bring projects through to their realization. It would be like a dentist who only learns how to prepare a tooth for filling but never learns how to complete the filling, or like a carpenter who learns how to use a hammer and nails but really never learns how to construct a house properly. I think for me it's a struggle to complete things because of perfectionistic tendencies. Not so much in how I evaluate the artistic merit of my work. I feel like I understand where I am at this point in my career in terms of my skill level and my capacity as an artist or an illustrator. I recognize that I have a great deal of work and learning to do. And so my ego is not really in the way when I evaluate the quote unquote beauty of my work. My perfectionistic tendencies lie more in the story that I'm trying to tell these days. I struggle to complete projects sometimes because I lose sight of the purpose of the project. Sometimes you have to set aside your perfectionism to complete and tell a story. I need to do that. I want each and every one of my projects to be solid from a storytelling perspective, and sometimes I find myself hitting a wall with the storytelling aspects of a single illustration or a novel that I'm writing or a comic book that I'm working on. And then I tend to go stagnant or pursue something else because frustration stifles me. I suppose these tendencies could be more like a combination of things. It could be perfectionism mixed with a lack of knowledge. I am growing as a storyteller. I'm slowly learning the tenets of telling a good story. I'm currently working through the Story Grid book. I know I started this a long time ago, but I'm getting back into it. This month I'm going to be working on Possum Awesome again and working on trying to get that story to more of a completed state. The Story Grid is a great book. It's a deep and challenging read. Sean Coyne has stuck a ton of wisdom and knowledge into this book about storytelling and how to tell a story that works. And I think it's extremely valuable for anybody who wants to be a writer of any level. You know, even if you're an experienced writer, I think it would be worthwhile checking it out. He's not endorsing me. This is all coming from my own experience, and I think it would be valuable for writers. Um, I'm curious. I wanted to know kind of whether any of you can relate to these things. If you can relate to the aspects of perfectionism that I'm talking about in your own work. Do you identify with the approach that my wife takes, where you only start stuff that you think you can finish? How does perfectionism play out in your creative journey? I'd love to hear your thoughts on the subject. If you would leave a comment below, that would be great. Or, you can just basically find me on social media. You know where to find me if you want to connect. And if you have thoughts about this, I'd love to hear it. In the meantime, you might want to check out some posts that I came across regarding perfectionism online. There's a lot to be considered around perfectionism, and I think there's a lot of learning for us to do individually around it. So if you think that you might be struggling from perfectionistic tendencies, if you find that maybe you're having a hard time starting things or you're procrastinating on stuff, you could be struggling with perfectionism. And there are some tools online that can help you identify if you are experiencing this. So I'll just read a couple things here. So Psychology Today, on their website, it reads this. It says, perfectionism is a trait that makes life an endless report card on accomplishments or looks, a fast and enduring track to unhappiness. It is often accompanied by depression and eating disorders. What makes perfectionism so toxic is that while those in its grip desire success, they are most focused on avoiding failure. So theirs is a negative orientation. And love isn't a refuge. In fact, it feels way too conditional on performance. Perfection, of course, is an abstraction, an impossibility in reality, and often it leads to procrastination. There is a difference between striving for excellence and demanding perfection. The need for perfection is usually transmitted in small ways from parents to children, some as silent as raised eyebrows over a B rather than an A. I found that very interesting, and it's kind of sad. It makes me sad to think that perfectionism kind of makes people feel these ways about love and probably makes people unable to receive love in some ways. And I think I've experienced that in my own life where there's been times where I feel like I can't really accept people's love because I feel like it's conditional based on how I'm performing. So there's that. That's on. I'll put a link in my description below. But that's from Psychology Today, and then at anxietycanada.com, there's a great article about overcoming perfection. You can read it. I'll put a link below, but basically it goes through steps. The little article that they have. I mean, they've got a ton of stuff on their website around anxiety and perfectionism and how to help yourself work through different things. But this article in particular points at steps to overcome perfectionism. So step one is learning to recognize perfectionism in yourself, and it walks through a number of different ways in which we can evaluate whether we might be struggling from perfectionism. And then it provides some tools to overcome perfectionism, such as realistic thinking, looking at the big picture, compromising on stuff, changing your behaviors. The second tool is around changing behaviors. So, overcoming procrastination. I think it's a great article. It's not super long, and I think you could give it a read and probably find some value there. Anyways, I'll put posts. I'll link, like I said, I'll put links below, and you guys can check that stuff out at your leisure. Anyways, I hope that each and every one of you can find joy and balance in your own work. I'm striving towards that and constantly working at improving my outlook on stuff. I hope that you guys always strive for excellence, but you embrace your limitations. I want you to realize nobody's perfect, and nobody's art is perfect. Not even Kim Jong-gi. You guys are familiar with him. I've talked about him in the past. So don't give up on don't give up, and keep creating, and don't be afraid to fail. Until next time, you guys, be good to each other. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. If you'd like to see more content, please click one of the videos on the screen. If you'd like to be notified when all my videos go up, please click the bell icon. And if you'd like to follow me on social medias, you can find me on patreon.com/Corey Lansdell. I'm at Corey Lansdell on Twitter and Instagram, and you can find me on Facebook as well. Until next time, you guys, be good to each other.